Hi everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of August 29th, September 4th, 2022. We have a really active and quite emotionally, let's say, powerful sky because there is a lot of celestial conversations interweaving with each other, giving us an emotional intensity and emotional gravity. But all of this, the large context is still the Uranus and the Saturn square, which is also activated by Saturn's opposition to Venus, which makes it a T square. So again, Venus. And she is definitely the highlight of this week's astrological show. She's the superstar because she holds a lot of different celestial conversations which are going to be guiding us both individually and collectively, let's say, onto another emotional dimension, if that even makes sense. But many of them felt at the same time, so it's not going to be a very easy week. So let's begin. As I said, the large picture is this: Uranus in Taurus, squaring Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. Uranus is at 18 degrees and 54 minutes of Taurus retrograde, and Saturn is at 20 degrees 49 minutes of Aquarius, also retrograde. So their conversation of tension is getting stronger. Now, why this is a little bit different right now is because both of these planets are retrograde. So the storm, the confrontation, the friction is very much felt internally. Where does this challenge us? Of course, this Uranus and Saturn is going to be part of two areas of our lives. Where is that for us personally? But even if we don't know it, even if we are not big connoisseurs of astrology, we can very well feel this. So we know if this is emotional, if this is in relationships, if this is in our philosophies, if this is with our identity, family, unconscious, subconscious, traumas, mental health, this is somewhere. Society and our own conditionings were challenging us up until now very strongly externally. Now all of this is internal. So this is where we might be challenging it, whatever it is. We are fighting back, or the life changes that we wish to experience right now are really in our hands. So we are doing it. We're breaking free, or we're breaking out, or we're breaking in. We're doing something. So this is very strongly felt. And first of all, Venus the highlight, and Venus is also the highlight because Uranus is in the sign ruled by her. So that's also very significant. And this is where it's beginning in the heart. It's being born in the heart. Leo, Venus in the sign of Leo, a strong reality check. Where does this reality check affect us? What are we feeling? Of course, there's one hand. Many of us might know where this 1 degrees of Venus is in our charts and which area of life, okay? But even those who don't know it, what do we feel in our heart of hearts? And where that feeling, the trigger, the reality check is going? Which area of life? Family, children, job, career, life path, spirituality. The emotion speaks to a certain area, so we can very well identify what life, what reality, what our inner forces, because this is more inner forces than external forces right now, are telling us. And the best thing is to be totally honest with ourselves. To be totally honest outside of religion, outside of ideology, outside of what normality should be to who. Be brutally honest, and that is when you know the path to change, the path to transformation, the path to upgrade, the path to whatever this Uranus and Saturn square demands of you. One thing was to get out of your comfort zone. Okay, we might have done that. So this is where it leads. The path is leading on. Okay, we're out of our comfort zone. Now we have to walk the path. For a lot of people, this is and that path sometimes, ironically, retrograde is backwards. In order to walk the path, if there are things uncompleted, then those uncompleted things and issues will be priority. So we might have to take 2 steps back, resolve, and then with open heart, light heart, even full heart of closures and whatever we find at the 2 steps back, whatever we gain, who knows, Saturn, Venus, or, at least the freedom of the heart, well, that's a massive blessing and a huge service we can do for ourselves. A massive service of exactly for those, 2 steps back. And why do I say it? Everything in our lives right now prepares us for the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Mercury begins retrograde at around 8 degrees of Libra, or some 10, 8 or 8, I think, and then goes back into Virgo, back to 24, almost 23 degrees of Virgo. So you can imagine it begins. It begins with our partnerships, then it begins with us, what it is that we have to do for ourselves. Doctor's visits, stuff like that. Detox, physical health issues, paperwork, sorting out finances, anything to do with HR, taxes. Why? Because Virgo needs to have things clean into order. Virgo is not necessarily financial, but her power extends to the financial because it has to be clean. It has to be order. It has to be as crystal clear in our minds and also on paper and at authorities in the system as possible. So whatever we need to do for ourselves in this sense. So this is how it begins, and this realization in the heart. So this Venus standing across the sky from Saturn, we know what we need to do for our futures. It may be hard, it may be uncomfortable, it may be radical, it may be, I never ever lived like this before, nor would I have ever imagined that I get to this. And still, you have to do it. And you have to, Venus like it as well. So you have to find a way where it's also, pleasurable as much as it can, or livable. You have to be okay with it. So if it's a fight, if it's a burden, if it's, oh my goodness, I can't live like this for long, then you're not doing it correctly. Whatever you're searching for, first of all, regardless of what area of life and what you need to live, what you need to do physically, Saturn, and also Uranus and Taurus physically, to be there, to be real, before it gets to that. Well, it's a thought, it's a philosophy, it's a plan. Is that plan okay? Is that plan real? Is that plan specific to you, who you are in your heart of hearts? Because if it's full of idealism and who you aspire to be, but who you're not yet, if it's way too futuristic, I'm so sorry, a wasp came in, so I'm also looking out for my own safety right now. So if it's not realistic, then no, it's not gonna work. It's not you. That's why embrace this upcoming retrograde. Hug it. because it's doing you a massive. It may be for some people. It may be painful because it's hard reality checks that I'm sensitive, for example, and I'm never, ever, ever gonna be different in this incarnation because that's so very radically part of me. So don't aspire for something totally opposite of that, because then you're not doing yourself a favor, and that's not the healthy expression of dreaming big. Know who you are and respect who you are. Sometimes Saturn asks us, hey, respect my limits, because creational limits, But Uranus says in Taurus, with hyper intelligence, let's say, you can still overcome any limits, but with intelligence. And intelligence asks us to know who we are and respect our limits. Let me give you a very cruel, really, and I'm so sorry if I would offend anyone, example. Let's say there is a person who has a problem with a limb or is disabled some way. Now, it is not in vain for that person to hope for a miracle, but if that miracle comes in form of something, and please excuse my lack of knowledge, bionic stuff, as in a highest creation of science, Uranus, based on the study of nature, Taurus. Now that person has to take a small risk because technology can always fail, but that person can also take a leap of faith where this can be a miracle because this can fulfill my needs, at least immediately, at least it can be a new adventure. It might not be unwise not to try it. So, this is already something Uranian, and this is how something, and it can be executed in the life of a person. For real. So, choices, and, thinking deeply through, spiritually, morally, your own worldview and life philosophies of what you're doing. And if you can find a compromise, if you can find a modus operandi where everything is good bedfellow, go for it. This is the larger sense of how this may play out in someone's life, for example. But we can also adapt all what I said to our own individual situations. But let's get to the horoscope. Beginning of the week. Sun square Mars. So this is not a very pleasant energy because Gemini, Mars in Gemini, this is my needs and someone else's needs. My will, someone else's will. Sun in Virgo, the need, the how to solve it, the problem solving. Maybe if this is two ideals opposing, clashing, two modus operandi of married partners, of colleagues, of allies, neighbors, whatever, then we have the square being a big problem, because it will clash. And Mercury in the sign of Libra, words will be also in contradiction. So we can expect this, challenges, unexpected, maybe us having to serve more our friends, our partners, everyone else than ourselves this week. And that leads to a time crisis, energy crisis, us having to truly put in everything for the service. But that means we can very well be at the other end of this situation, where we have a problem and other people have to serve us like it or not. It's uncomfortable for us, strategically speaking. Of course, it's uncomfortable for them. It is what it is. Better go with the flow, with peace, and not rebel against it. This is an example of how, and very potentially it can play out one way or another in all of our lives. A friend who is in need, and like it or not, this is the situation. We are in need as well, but we have to make the choice. You know this, but you can imagine that what I said is where peaceful people who live peaceful lives and have peaceful ideologies, of course, we'll do this. It's just a week. But for those people who are kind of self-centered, aggressive, radical in their beliefs, in their everything, this will not be an easy energy. Because radical, it will not give way. My way, help me, but the way I want, or, so this, imagine, also September, especially in my culture, my country, Eastern Europe, let's say, is a period, and of course I think it all of Europe really, maybe all the world, when children go back to school. So you can imagine school, Gemini, exactly that's Gemini, one of its expression. Children 7 to, I don't know, even 18, going to school. And their education and what they do at school, their mindset, how it's building up, that's very Gemini. Mars, to do, logistics. Which parent, when, which, who. The teacher wants this, that, and that on the list. The parents have to talk it over. This is where the complications begin. And okay, in an ideal family, we can work it out in a not so ideal radical opinion, dominance. Who is the dominant partner kind of family? It's not gonna be a pretty sight. So, and this can be a job, this can be banking, this can be investments, this can be so very many things in different people's areas of lives. Okay, so I'm so sorry to scare you like this, but Venus, Saturn, and Uranus, that's a T-square. So it's not easy. On the heart, heavy on the heart, heavy on the mind, heavy on the matter. Uranus in Taurus. Now, of course, if we translate this energy into a totally different kind of expression, let's expect strange weather phenomenon, perhaps heat waves somewhere unexpected, or earth events which might trigger our compassion. Venus in the sign of Leo. There might be earth events next week taking place, and I'm not an astrologer who is good at astrocartography, so I would not know how to tell you exactly where, but other astrologers like Pam Gregory, they do include that in their work, so you can find out more there. So, and financially, this can also be a surprise, a reality check, a need to restrict your future plans, a travel, a holiday, cancel it. It's better off if I don't spend, or someone else needs the money more, your child, a parent, a dear friend, or I don't know, Uranus finds coincidences, and this energy from some people might demand sacrifice, the larger astrological picture of next week. But, oh, and financially, collectively, there is a lot of discussions, there is a lot of unexpected, this is where it starts, the retrograde going back. What did you do with the money? Because this is where it's just a thought, it's just a question mark by September and basically all the autumn. It's gonna be, yeah, let's take it in courts of justice. Trials, Libra season, big trials, big legal cases, a, a lot going on the world stage. Because Libra, Mercury, in and out at 0 degree of Libra activates the news world stage. Info, what did you do? Mercury, Mercury, but in Virgo, medical world, pharma, research, ethics, discrimination, vaccinated, not vax. And I'm even angry at myself for pronouncing this. Why? Because it's not my business. But this is literally what the astrology says. So I'm just the reporter. If you watch the news, just take me as the lady or gentleman in the news reading you the paper. I'm just that. It's really not my opinion. It is just something that you will see on the world stage, in the news probably, or alternative news, because Mercury in shadow is also alternative media, so it will be everywhere. And also, when Mercury moves back into Virgo, it opposes Neptune. Illusion, lies, truth, half truth, research, but based on what? And where that leads us, legal cases, trials. Mercury goes back into Libra. That's where it's on, opposing Jupiter in Aries, my justice, or what is justice? The justice of the individual. And this will birth in the legal world certain legal cases that will be totally revolutionary, never ever seen before, heard of before. Okay, let's go further. So here I want to point out that 30th, Mercury will speak in harmony with Mars. Mercury will trine Mars, because Mercury in Libra and Mars in Gemini, and that is one of the good blessings. That is one of the good empowering energies, because Mars in Gemini and Mercury in Libra. Okay, some people will be the opposing, challenging other person, like the partner, the husband, wife, the boyfriend, girlfriend, the colleague, the boss, the. But there is also the ally, the best friend, the mommy, daddy for some people. Not in the sense that who is your greatest ally in your life? Sometimes, and for many people, it's mommy, daddy. There's no shame in this, and it's not unhealthy spiritually. Who is, of course, mommy, daddy. So, priest, cleric, psychologist. So if you're anyone in this domain, expect a lot of work coming in. And I'm even gonna tell you what your theme is gonna be. What am I gonna do at my marriage? What am I gonna do with choices? Am I thinking correctly? They are gonna seek a lot of guidance for their choices. So you also need to stand totally from the observer's angle and not get involved. So it's really gonna be hard, not very easy for all of us. Professionals, Virgo, Sun in Virgo, professional service that you offer, it will really challenge you, and you will really have cases where, okay, so, but the blessing, Mars, would you work? Would you have courage? Would you be brave? Would you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Would you see the good Virgo sides, not the bad Virgo sides? The devil's in the details, but Virgo can make it in such a way where sometimes even the blessing is in the details, to be totally honest. So, Virgo, mutable, make it your own, make it a blessing. And Mars, intelligence, Gemini, words, communication, beauty of words. Of course, if you and your ally, as I said, best friend, soulmate, your astrologer, your whatever, whoever that is, do something really, really good together, well, of course, you're gonna celebrate and be happy for each other, that can be one of the harvests later on in the month, as in next month, sorry, because this month is over. So there is a lot of good here, and empowerment. If you're weak, if you don't know how to do it, if you're lost, that's okay. Your best friend may not be as lost, or your best friend comes, I'm lost with you, but let's brainstorm. There is help, really help. There is help out there. And because, Sun and Virgo, maybe a professional might get it wrong this week, but it's okay. Help the professional, and then you'll get it right. It's okay, everyone gets it wrong, even a professional. But if you see that the professional is truly an honest human being and they want nothing but help, and you go with this attitude, look, let's go again. That you empower the professional, and this square becomes a blessing for both of you. And when I say professional, not therapist necessarily, or nurse, doctor, even though, when you're in the nurse, doctor, you mustn't really get it wrong, but anyway, it can be your plumber, it can be your painter, it can be your massage therapist, it can be anyone, any professional. Virgo, it can be anyone who does something for you in your life. Driver, whatever. Be kind to them. Don't allow the Mars Sun square to turn bad. Compliment, words, diplomacy can get you anywhere. Mercury. Now, of course, Mercury and Shadow and, Mars. Both of these planets are preparing really for their retrograde, just that Mars still has a lot. But it's still in its retrograde sign, so be careful with cons, be careful with deception, be careful with, the classic Mercury retrograde dangers. I must say that. And yes, Venus also starts her square with, oh, no, Uranus. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. What I wanted to say, Venus also starts her quincunx with Neptune. Now, this can be what you want, really. Venus and Leo. If you really want it, it can be absolutely romantic, it can be miraculous, it can be divine, but a big illusion. But it can also be where, with the power of illusion, you enjoy something more than you should. You amplify love, you amplify passion, you amplify the beauty of something that is already there. That's how I interpret this energy, and this can be a massive blessing for artists. Also, you can come from the most unexpected places. Venus in Leo, quincunx Neptune in Pisces. So value from spirit, from coincidences, from synchronicities, from gestures of people, from everything that you observe can have almost like a surreal, mystical nuance to it. But if you want to see beauty, then you make the world more beautiful. This is how you use this energy for the better. How you use it for the worse. Let's say that you really need love in your life and you convince yourself that someone fancies you, and then it gets into a horrible illusion and you disappoint yourself. That's escapist tendencies can also add to this a lot. Spiritually being in the wrong, that's also part of the picture, where sometimes you just realize the big things you're proud of yourself as a spiritual, there's a lot of ego in them, and then everything changes. You all of a sudden, something totally else will take the place of what you're truly proud of in an instant. Because sometimes it is very, very hard to detect the ego. Sometimes it takes tens of years of keeping a memory within our hearts to distill it, to catch it where it is. Sometimes we just let go of honor and pride and just take it for the beauty that it was, the experience. And we let go of the, as I said, pride. But all of this is philosophy. But of course, this can be one of those moments when we see the past with a totally different heart space, if that even makes sense. Okay, now where I want to go with this is that there is another quincunx the next day, but let me advance it even. Or is there something? Yeah, Mercury holding the trine with Mars here. So this is where the quincunx, this Venus at 25 degrees of Leo receives now a quincunx from Pluto retrograde in Capricorn and this Neptune. That's the finger of God pointing at Venus to the heart. A value, something, a synchronicity. Pay attention to what Pluto, your own inner forces, your own psyche is telling you strongly. Maybe your desires, your urges, what you want, but then also pay close attention to what your soul, your higher self, the universe around you through synchronicities is trying to tell you, and find a truth in that. Maybe you find out who truly loves you, where love truly is in your life, not where you expected. Something mysterious, something perhaps divinely orchestrated, but which is very hard to follow on, happens in your life, and it leads you to a truth of the heart. But again, as I said, Venus just not so long ago had that T-square with opposing Saturn and squaring Uranus, and maybe this quincunx, this yacht formation, is a blessing that comes after the hardship. A bandage that heals the heart, a divine bandage. Something gently, like a Fata Morgana, like a Maya, but of the gentlest kind, where it's like a carrot on the stick, but if the divine is holding it, you're wise to follow the game, and that Pluto, the intensity grows and grows, and you get to somewhere, an understanding of the heart, an understanding of your own feelings, an understanding of what love is, of who it is that you love, who loves you, what you love. Something with spirit. Pisces, the house of spirituality, the sign of spirituality. And Pluto in Capricorn, this is how you're structuring it, what power it holds over your life and your everyday routines. So this is quite a mysterious and miraculous energy, but Mercury opposing Jupiter. Mercury standing across the sky from Jupiter, so faith. Your whatever it is that you're investing your energy into, wherever you're basically Jupiter, your worldviews, your ideals, your sense of justice, your subjective truth is taking you because it's in the head. That's your direction. Opposing Mercury and Libra, others, negotiation, a confrontation, your truth and that of the others verbally, especially. Maybe a contract, a marriage, a partnership, an alliance, one forming or one reaching a stage where you need to talk things over. Because an opposition rarely means one forming, yet it can mean one forming, where you decide if to go ahead of the partnership based on the two worldviews. Your mindset may match, your spirituality may match the big picture, but the worldview, the modus operandi, the future, where you want to go in the future, what you want to do with it, if that is not the same, then you can be good friends, you can be brothers, sisters, but maybe not boyfriend, girlfriend, or variations of this. So that's how, and even in a position and contract, my value systems changed. So maybe my bank changes, my a lot changes, my faith changed, my I lost faith in materialism, in this and that. When you lose faith in a frequency that you lived in not so long ago, you can imagine that everything in your life changes. When you give up on materialism, there are gonna be massive life changes, alliance changes, friends, contract, everything, radical life changes. For some people, this is how it begins. So, yes, in opposition, talking, think, maybe compromise, a lot of talk. The unwise thing is for it to be confrontational and violent and murk the square, because the sun ego in Virgo, discrimination, nitty-gritty, hair splitting. For example, give you an example, you're a perfect husband, but you're like this. I wish you were different in this, that sense. Well, then, is that love? Then, are you really a perfect husband then? So it already rings alarm bells. What you say, the big picture, but the small picture. Okay, you can say, if the small picture is I wish you were different in so very many ways, then isn't the big picture a lie? You can see where I'm going with this, and this is for a job, this is for everything. There is a friend of mine who met some yoga practitioners, and he said, well, are they really that deeply spiritual people? Because he is more traditional Christian. And I told him that theory is beautiful, but yoga practitioners in the real sense need the lifestyle of a monk, really. And adapted to this modern day and age, it works compromisively, but it doesn't work the way it's the real deal. So that was my way of expressing it to him. And this is the same thing. We need to adapt a modus operandi that meets also our lifestyle and who it is that we are through our actions, not just our ideals and the soul. The soul needs to embody. So we need to choose partners, jobs, anything susceptible to modus operandi, Virgo, that is reflective of who it is that we are in lifestyle and through our actions. Because you can be a person who worships an idol of mercy like Christ all day long, but never ever do an act of generosity and donation in your life. Well, as a human being, you're wasting your time. As a soul, you might get the idea of Christ, but in the next incarnation, let's say, you'll live the same life as you did now. Exactly almost the same. Like indigo. Why? Because, okay, the theory is there. Yes, fine. Practice. Do it. Give. Give or serve or choose an ill partner. If you choose a partner who has a long-term illness, you will serve that person for the rest of your life. But each smile that person has on their face in their moment of illness, that's a personal triumph for you. You don't see life this way? Okay. That's why you need a next incarnation of exactly the same thing that you're missing out on. You get where I'm going with this? This Virgo energy teaches us that so very well of what faith really means in 3D. And faith in 3D is hard. A lot of extra work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of going hungry, thirsty, unsatisfied in every way, shape, and form, and still needing to serve the greater good. That's what Virgo teaches us. And I would like to say a massive appreciative discourse for people who have a lot of Virgo energy in their charts and offered the service, who chose to be the social worker, who chose to be the nurse, who chose to be the psychologist, who chose to be the servant, really, the cleaner, the everyone who ever was a cleaner. Yes, you learned something in this incarnation. So this is where these people who I mentioned, these archetypes, and we all know that cleaner, we all know that nurse, we all know that therapist, holistic healer, who just gives it there for free. Yep, this is what Virgo is about, the service, the nobility of the service. So, these karmic lessons are teaching all of us the meaning of what faith means embodied and the value of service. So this can go either way. If you are a person who truly gets it, this is just where you're busy and that's it. But if you're a person who asks the universe to learn the truth of certain things, then you're taken into this karma of sacrifice, really, and it's uncomfortable, but it is what it is. Maybe you will clash ideologically with partners, with husband, wife, with even your children, with other people, but the universe tells you something, even ideologically. And as I said, Mercury trine Mars. There is wisdom there. There is a lot of help and support and friends and opportunities and inspiration and good communication and good words out there as well. There is a lot of good choices, but nothing is set in stone. Whatever good happens, remember, Mercury retrograde. If you receive a great help, know that at Mercury retrograde, you will probably need to support the person who helped you or thank the hand that gave to you out of your own initiative, inner force. You will feel the need to do something beautiful for that person, for example. It is a massive blessing of alliance, but you can imagine it will be your turn soon as well. So, and also, what I want to mention, Sun quincunx Jupiter. Sun, the ego. Exactly what I said. If you're a healer, who are you healing unconditionally and out of sheer, faith in what it means to be a healer? Because one of your clients, patients, subject of your service can be someone who pays you back so beautifully that your jaw will drop. You can have a poet, you can have an artist client, you can have a fellow healer client, you don't know who your clients are, and you can have such a wonderful person, Jupiter, who will really, really make your life that much more beautiful. So whatever you gave and sacrificed comes back to you through beauty, sheer beauty. And that's wonderful in itself. But for other people, maybe that beauty is another kind of blessing. Jupiter in Aries is really, really, there is no spoon energy. So the blessing can be so abundant, so intense, so lived experience kind of blessing. So, what else do I want to say here? But all this in the Saturn and Uranus context. So a lot of events out there on the world stage. Mercury and Jupiter still kind of very close and getting closer back to 0 degrees of their signs. World stage again, the world out there, news, communication, documents, trials, legal stuff. Legal stuff is very much both Libra, getting the sun, getting closer to Libra season. Venus will also come into Libra at one point. Mercury at retrograde will meet with Venus in Virgo, but too close proximity to 0 degrees of Libra. So that's almost like an outer sign activation. Justice, legal system, trials, tribulation, and that also means big decisions, life changes, legal changes in our lives as well. And also Mars retrograde in the sign of Gemini, but not even retrograde, just Mars in shadow, just Mars simply in Gemini activates all the past Gemini energy we had. North Node in Gemini, eclipse in Gemini, lunations in Gemini, big energies in Gemini. And those activated by Mars, who is it that we are? Us, truth to who we are. And Mars, through actions, through preferences, through everyday mindset. Because if our minds are not very pure, even if our actions and our lived experience is pure, we still have a problem, Houston. If you want to be a pure person, unfortunately, all part of your being, all part of yourself has to be clean, even your mind. But at the same time, Mars in Gemini can also say, if you give way to some fun, some adolescent energy, that doesn't make you impure, that just makes you an honest human being, lived experience. So balance. What is this Mars teaching all of us about who it is that we are? Who are our partners? If we have this big question mark, why am I single? Or why are my partners not really like me? Why don't they get me? Because your mind is not who you are. Your mind is a different person, not who your soul is, not even who your ego is. If your thoughts are chaotic, random, and not very okay, well then, a part of your work was still in vain, because that's a massive blockage. That's why your partnerships cannot reflect it. But if your partnerships are kind of radical and very honest, sometimes you don't even know what to do with the radical honesty, keep that person in your life, because that's how you are as well. Accept it. Honesty is always a value. Don't discard the person who is brutally honest with you from your life, because that also means you're doing a good thing. Don't choose not honesty, if you know what I mean. Be truthful, grateful, to those people in your life who are brutally honest, because they do you a service. Do not value as much those who lick the ego. Rather value those who tell you the truth to your face, and learn how to accept that truth. You have every right to disagree, but don't judge the person for having a vision of you. But again, this is the larger retrograde season. This is the rest of this year. This is the rest of this autumn and winter. So, okay, it's nothing bad, but lessons will be learned here. And this week begins this in parenting, in contract, at work, at living arrangements, living conditions, modus operandi. And again, who it is that I am in mind, who it is that I am in heart, who it is that I am, what my partners reflect that I am. What do you hear about yourself, about your honest partners? Because that's who you are. If you don't like it, change. Change who you are, your mindset and your heart first of all, and that will change immediately. So these are very, very tough lessons. And also on the world stage, expect a lot of chaos on the world stage, but a lot of illusion as well. Fake promises, allures, too good to be true moments on the world stage as well. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all the love, all the support, all the kindness, all the generosity, all the beautiful messages. And I'm so sorry that I couldn't respond to every comment, but I so appreciate it. And thank you so much, really. I'm so grateful for keeping me alive.